I'm Raj Chengappa from India Today, and I'm with Ashwini Vaishnaw, the Minister for Telecommunications, Railways, Information Technology and Electronics. But today we're going to talk about telecommunications. We've just concluded the historic 5G spectrum auctions. How satisfied are you with the outcome of this, and what is its significance?
See, the 5G spectrum auction has concluded with good success. It's a reflection of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's reform program. In September last year, he set out a very important structural and procedural reform. He followed it up with reforms in WPC, which is the spectrum management body of the country. Then there were reforms in how telecom towers are set, how the optical fiber cable which has to be laid, so what are the ROW permissions. So there is a whole series of reforms across the gamut of telecom sector, and what we see today, the result of the spectrum auction is basically a reflection of that reform process.
Now, in terms of the amount collected, the sums that were there, is it as anticipated, or you expected less, more? What did you think would happen in this?
So before the auction, all the estimates which were there from the analysts, from the industry bodies and everybody, the general anticipation was that anywhere between 80,000 to a lakh crore would be the spectrum auction result. But we are very glad that the whole industry has now come out of the deep trouble that it was in and getting into a new growth phase. That's why they've been able to take spectrum throughout all the bands, 700, 800, 900, 1800. So almost all the bands which were put to auction have been taken by the industry, and that's why the numbers which have come, 1,50,000 crore, is basically a reflection that the industry is coming out of its deep trouble.
Now, how does it benefit people like you and me, the common man, and as well as the business? I mean, what is 5G, what is the promise of 5G?
So there are two different things that will be experienced by the users. Fourth generation was a kind of evolution over the third generation. The fifth generation 5G is basically a totally new way of designing a telecom network, and that's why the experience will be very different. There are two elements. First is latency, which is basically how quickly does the equipment or the phone gets connected with the tower, right? Second is the speed. So the speed in 5G is going to be almost 10 times the speed in 4G. Now, is this sufficient in itself? No. What is important is the entire ecosystem, the availability of towers, the availability of fiber, the availability of spectrum. All those things have been addressed, and that's why the experience is going to be significantly better. So I'll also like to show you.
Yeah, now when it comes, and this is the question I had wanted to ask you, because there was concerns with the Chinese company Huawei when the whole 5G auction process had begun. How have you avoided the fact that, there are a lot of security concerns that 5G throws up, and what are we doing to ensure that that doesn't happen? What is the substitute we are trying to make?
So when Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji announced the Atmanirbhar Bharat program, in that some of the critical technologies which are needed for our growth, the country decided, Prime Minister gave us a target that we must develop these technologies in the country. It was not an easy task. Developing the complete 4G technology stack end to end, which basically means the core network, the radio network, the network management system, and everything which is associated with it. Over and above that, moving from the 4G experience, building and designing the entire 5G ecosystem. What's important is, this has been done by a whole set of startups and other entrepreneurs who have come forward and put their efforts and resources in it. So if you see...
Yeah, can you take us through, I see here you've got the core. This is exactly what Huawei and others were making, and we are now doing this in India, you're saying?
Absolutely. So the core network, the radio network, all the elements of the radio network, even the chip which goes in the entire setup, all these are now designed by our Indian entrepreneurs, by our startups. They are not only going to install these in India, but they are also getting now international orders. So, I mean, Verizon has recently given orders to an Indian startup for supplying many of the radio equipment. Then other companies in Europe, other companies across the world are today giving orders to Indian entrepreneurs. So the Make in India combined with the philosophy of Atmanirbhar Bharat, together all that effort which has been put by the government and the industry together has today resulted in developing the complete ecosystem of equipment in the country, which will be deployed in the country and then taken to the world. So you remember when CDOT developed the racks, right? Rural exchange.
Yes.
That was a game changer.
Right.
That was a game changer because that is one exchange which could have been, that was 35 years back, that could have been taken to the world, any part of the world it will operate, right? For a long period that technology journey got scuttled, and that started once again in the recent times, and the core network developed by CDOT is today actually seen by the whole world. World is waiting for getting a good trusted solution out of India.